Welcome to the Patty Pod, Season 4, Episode 1. That's right, we're in a new season, Episode 1. Why a new season? Hey, why not a new season? So let's jump into it. Hey, if you're into philosophy enough that you majored in it in college and got into a pretty good graduate program, but not enough to finish that program, and if you enjoy pursuing a few of the back streets of the world of New Age spirituality, and like to think about sayings and idioms, especially from the past, and think about men's fashion, particularly old-timey hats, and meander around New York City and look at art from time to time, and enjoy playing, watching, and discussing the game of hockey, and like reflecting on life, and have sensibilities shaped by being born towards the very end of the 1970s in northeastern Minnesota, and coming of age in Minneapolis, and moving out east in your early adulthood, have I got a podcast for you. Yeah, that's right. I used to work in media and technology, and on occasion I'd see ads for groups advocating for more women to work in technology. All I could think was, what on earth have women done to deserve that? Yeah, I had a huge day the other day. I wore my first turtleneck since the 1990s. It's a black one, and I announced this momentous occasion via text to my family, complete with a photo. My brother Brendan responded with a, "Now it's time on Sprockets When We Dance" reply. Now, he's another family member / non-listener, but let me still say, touché, mon frère, touché. For those of you who aren't familiar, look up Sprockets SNL on YouTube, and you'll get the reference. Anyway, donning such a garment as the black turtleneck, it brought me back to the 90s. Now, some of you may know, especially with fashion and just in general, there's a lot of 90s nostalgia these days. And hey, I get it. They were great years, and this has nothing to do with the fact that I was a teenager who didn't need to think about paying bills or midlife crises. No, man, remember? There were no smartphones or social media to distract us. We hung out with our friends and just enjoyed fresh air and conversation. We were dancing to the Macarena. With the turtlenecks, nobody had to worry about cold necks. America was the only nation that could make geopolitical decisions, and hundreds of millions in developing nations hadn't been lifted out of poverty. Everything was awesome. Okay, folks, story time. We're going to go to the story corner. Tell a little story about my bachelor party in Pittsburgh. I got a buddy named EJ. Shout out EJ, sometimes listener. He hosted the party, and his father had played professional hockey and was a coach in the NHL and a general manager in the NHL. And he met some people who, throughout the years, that were pretty notable. So my friends in Minnesota had not yet met my friend EJ, and they decided, and my friend, he was going to host the party. He was going to, in Pittsburgh, and we were all going to stay at his place, his parents' place, as it turned out to be. And so my friends were coming from Minnesota. I was coming from New York City. And we decided we were just going to meet there. Our flights we all landed on the same day, but my buddies in Minnesota, they came in a little bit earlier than me. And they were huge hockey fans. And one of my both of them were hockey players. And of course, that was a big part of our childhood. And they arrived like an hour earlier than me, and my buddy had told them just to go down through the back door and of the house, and that led into their rec room in the basement. Kind of a typical rec room in a suburban house. Nothing too fancy. Nice house, but nothing too crazy. So my friends come in, and they start looking around, and, my friend EJ's got, his family had pictures up like anyone does of vacations and, family photos and whatnot. And my friends see a picture of some guy with Mario Lemieux and the Stanley Cup. And then they see a picture of the same guy with Bobby Orr and a Stanley Cup. And then they see pictures with Jaromir Jagr and other people like that. And they were like, who the hell is this guy? If you don't know hockey, Bobby Orr and Mario Lemieux are considered by almost everybody as in the top 3 all time. So it would be like, I don't know, like going to a place and seeing a guy who has pictures with with LeBron James and Michael Jordan, maybe, and like Kobe and Kareem and Michael or something like that. So, they were like, could not believe, we were really confused about what they'd walked into. Turns out my friend's dad played with Bobby Orr back in the day and was kind of a big brother to Bobby Orr. And then he, when he was with the Penguins, he drafted Mario Lemieux, and I think was kind of a fatherly figure to Mario Lemieux. So there you go. Big surprise. My friends insisted that I never told them about these connections that my friend's dad had, but I thought I had. So that was kind of a fun story. I'll tell another story about the time I sold my car in New York City. I was pretty new to New York City at the time. I had just moved from New Jersey, so I had been in the area a little bit of time, but I had not been in the city very long. And as I had moved to the city, I was living in Brooklyn at this time, I decided to get rid of my car because I was really only driving it to move it from one parking space to another parking space because it was totally impractical to go into Manhattan to the neighborhood of Soho where I was working with a car, especially at my salary at that time. It was so expensive to park in New York City in that neighborhood. So I would never drive it. And it was starting to break down a little bit, and I think I looked around, and I think I called dealers in the area, and didn't love the offers that I was getting. So there had been this outfit, some company that had advertised pretty frequently on television that they would come to your home and buy your car from you. And I remember their ad they said, don't list it on the internet and have some crazy person come. And they showed some guy with like these glasses that had these googly eyes that were on springs, and they were kind of bouncing out of the frames. And they did this zany little voice. And so that was sort of the pitch, like don't just list it and there was all these tales of like Craigslist robberies going around back then, of people like listing something to sell and then the people coming and just stealing it, or coming and like holding you up for money or whatever. So I said, yeah, okay, this seems like a good deal. Let me call these people. Well, it turns out they didn't come to my neighborhood. I guess I was too far out. So I thought, well, okay, I've sort of gone down this road of selling the car to some company. Instead of listing it on Craigslist, I sort of convinced myself that I was going to do that, sell it to a company. But I didn't want to sell it to the dealer, and it seemed like the smart guys, the streetwise guys, the guys that knew what was going on, knew not to sell to the dealers. That was kind of a rookie mistake. The dealer wouldn't give you much, was sort of the take. So I did just a Google search, and I found a company that said that they would do what the other company said they would do, which is to come to your home and buy your car. So I did that. I called them. They said, I gave them my address. They said, yeah, okay, great, we'll come out. So they came out. This guy comes out. This is the first night the kid spent a night in my apartment. And I was like, hey, I just got to go out and sell this car really quick. And she's like, yeah, okay, no problem. So the guy comes out. I go into the street where the car is parked. And he's like, okay, great, yeah, just start it for me. So I got in and I started it. He does a little circle around the car, glances at it a little bit like you might do when you're checking out a rental car. And then that was it. He came to me and he's like, great, I'll give you $2,000. And I was like, yeah, for sure. That was more than the dealer quoted me. So I'm like, great. He's like, all right, well, you got two options. You can follow me to Queens, or you can have it towed there, but you have to pay for it. And I was like, okay, I'm really trying to save money. The car probably will make it to Queens. There was something going on with the right front tire. It was smacking into the wheel well when you would turn it to the right. So I was a little nervous to drive it, but I thought, whatever. It's probably going to make it to Queens without the wheel falling off. So I said, yeah, sure, no, I'll follow you. So I think I'm telling you, I ran back and said, yeah, I'm just gonna go to Queens to Kate. I'll be right back, hopefully. Queens is a ways away from where I was, and way out in South Brooklyn. So I hop in. I'm following this guy. I am nervous because every time I have to kind of veer right, the wheel's making this terrible noise. The guy is driving. We finally get to Queens. He gets off of the highway that sort of circles the perimeter, and we go into Queens. And I've only been to like the very edge of Queens near Manhattan, where I suppose a lot of non-Queens residents go. But we're going deeper into Queens and deeper into Queens and deeper into Queens. And I'm, just praying that my wheel stays on. And we get into neighborhoods that start getting worse and worse and worse, and actually start getting kind of bad now. Like just looking like rough characters on the streets, and homes and buildings that look like they're in disrepair. And the guy pulls over into a gas station. So I pull in behind him, and he parks the car, and I park the car. I'm like, this is the business? Like, this seems shady. And he gets out, he's like, yeah, okay, so I'm going to give you the money, just give me the keys. I'm going to lock the car, and then I'll call you a cab. And I was like, okay. So I lock the car, I hand him the keys. He gives me a wad of cash. It's $2,000 in cash in an envelope. And then he's like, all right, see you later. And he takes off, leaving the car there, but it's locked, and he's got the keys. And I'm just thinking to myself, the guy didn't even drive the car to see how it operated. He, which I think I would have done if I'm going to buy a car. And, and now he's got the keys, so I can't get back into the car. And he just handed me cash and took off. And I'm like, okay. Supposedly a cab's coming. Well, as soon as he leaves, this car pulls up with 4 dudes that are probably in their late 20s, and they look real tough. They just kind of look like rough guys. And they slowly pull past me and park the car, too. They don't go to the gas pump, and I'm like, shit. And all I could think was like, oh, here's the scam. These guys have my car. They've got it. It's locked, and they have the keys. They handed me the cash so that I, handed over the keys. These guys are just going to take the cash back, and hopefully that's it. So these guys park their car. One guy gets out and starts walking towards me, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm dead. I'm such an idiot. And he keeps walking. Goes past me. I'm like breathing the biggest sigh of relief in my life. I look kind of back. He's going to some lockbox, which I was like, don't look. It's his business, not my business. And that was that. So a cab did pull up a few minutes later, and all's well that ends well. But for a minute there, I thought I was dead, and I thought I was an idiot. So that was selling my car in New York City. Let's move on to uncle jokes. Uncle jokes, they're like dad jokes, but just like uncles are cooler than dads, they're cooler than dad jokes. Let's get into the first one. Why did the oyster never give gifts? He was far too shellfish. All right, give you a moment to recover from your laughter. Let's go on to the next one. What is the favorite song of pirates? Shake your booty, shake your booty. All right, give you another moment, catch your breath. All right, here we go. What's the favorite vegetable of DJs? Beets. You know it, baby. Okay, last one for now. Why was everyone so concerned about the cat? Well, he kept saying, me, ow. Boom, there it is. Somebody call an ambulance because I am killing the joke game. Hey, I've been trying to keep all these jokes and all of my documents in order. I would just hate for my future biographers to have to do a lot of digging. Hey, fake it till you make it is one of the best things I've ever heard. Many of us get imposter syndrome or just don't feel like we're doing a good job. Sometimes. That's when I can fall back on fake it till you make it. I've decided I'm going to do this for decades if I need to. It's actually been a really helpful one for me. There's an outfit in Edmonton that sell what they call volcano pizza. It has a cup-shaped receptacle in the middle of the pizza that's made out of dough and serves to hold some kind of ranch dressing. I saw it advertised the other day on television, and I thought to myself, that's just classic Italian cuisine. We need more of that, straightforward, simple, and most of all, no gimmicks. Speaking of Canada, the World Series just wrapped up, and my 85-year-old Saskatchewan neighbor seems to be the only Canadian who knows that Western Canadians are not supposed to cheer for Toronto teams. It's shameful to see that kind of unity up there. I wonder what on earth could have caused them to rally around the one Canadian team in an otherwise American MLB. I was thinking about character the other day. I find that stories that I like the most have outstanding use of character. Now, I like great plots, especially epic ones, and fantastic world building, but character seems to really stand out for me. I thought about this when I read my friend Mike Savage's detective series, the Dave DeVecchi books. His detective is so thoughtful and spiritual that I call him the reflective detective. I like the character so much that I almost look to him as a mentor. The plot sometimes is secondary for me, and it does that, and that's the same way with other stories with great characterization, like the 90s television show, Northern Exposure. Check that out if you haven't. I've shouted out Northern Exposure a few times. Such a great series. Part of why I bought the turtleneck, because one of the characters, my favorite character, Chris, he's a radio DJ, and he's like almost like the Patty Pod. Talks about spiritual stuff, a little bit about literature, about art, about some psychoanalysis. It's fantastic. Anyway, he was wearing a black turtleneck and a leather vest. I don't know if I'm ready for the leather vest, but I might have to check it out. I also bought a motorcycle jacket. I'll probably talk more about that later in another episode. That was inspired by my other favorite character, Ed, who's just a great guy and a film buff and fledgling filmmaker. Anyway, check it out. So that's a little bit of Northern Exposure. I started to wonder why I was so drawn to great characters. Was it because the authors were leaving out enough of the negative aspects of people that it made the characters so attractive? Was I just finding characters like me and identifying with them, as so many of us do? I think there's something to all that, but many of my favorite characters have distinctly sketched flaws. I think a lot of it is also that the great characters reveal themselves in ways that many acquaintances and even close friends of mine don't do. For me, I think I just like hanging out with people so unmasked. It's relaxing to connect openly and can be very energetic and fun, as it sometimes is with like your oldest friends. I can almost get transfixed by seeing how they make their way in the world. I know I'm looking at their lives as examples and models to see how someone quirky, maybe like me, can find a way to be themselves and still jive with the world. All right, let's take a quick trip to the language corner. If a guy says, well, I got to go drop a deuce, there's an extremely high probability that we're not friends. I was watching an Instagram series the other day. It's called Subway Takes. I don't think I've mentioned this before. I might have. It features people giving somewhat unusual takes. You can check it out. If you just search Instagram for Subway Takes, probably find it. I think it's also on YouTube. And TikTok, if you're a TikToker. I'm not, but for those of you that are, I think it's pretty funny. I recommend it. I actually ran into the creator. His name is Kareem Rama once in my local coffee shop. Shout out Kareem. Shout out Windsor Coffee. I was just there earlier today. We had a nice little chat about his projects. He's got this show about, or I should say with cab drivers. I think it's called Keep the Meter Running. Also on YouTube, I believe. Perhaps on Instagram and TikTok too, but I'm pretty sure it's on YouTube, where he just jumps in the cab and he asks them to go to their favorite place, and he's going to foot the bill. He's just going to let the meter run. So the cabbies will take them to some place they like. Sometimes it's cafes or restaurants. And then they just chat about the life story. It's pretty good. Anyway, that's Kareem. He was raised in Minnesota, and he's a New Yorker now, so I feel kind of a kinship with him. Anyway, there was this guy on his Subway Take show that was talking about whiteness. and it got me thinking about the whitest thing in the world. I thought it might be eating Wonder Bread at a John Tesh concert. That's kind of what I came up with. Now, if you're a person of color and you're thinking, hey man, don't gatekeep, or hey white people, don't gatekeep eating Wonder Bread at a John Tesh concert, I would say, trust me, you really don't want to eat Wonder Bread at a John Tesh concert. I spoke a little bit about listening to the rest is History podcast, an excellent podcast on history. It's pretty popular. You may have heard of it. They do fairly standard history topics. I think I talked about Admiral Nelson. I did talk about that before, and I was listening to one on Mary Queen of Scots, and there was one on there's a series on the Irish independence and the Irish Civil War. Anyway, kind of standard history, but it's interlaced with funny and witty asides by the two hosts and some insights and commentary. Anyway, I spoke before about Admiral Horatio Nelson, as I mentioned, and I guess this is maybe becoming a Admiral Nelson podcast. But in any case, the host told the story of his final battle and when Nelson shared his plans with his officers. The reception that he got to those plans reminded me that I've begun to slip a little bit in my standards and how I expect coworkers to receive my plans. Truly, I expect nothing less now than what Nelson got, and will insist on nothing less in the future than what was described by Nelson when he said, quote, "When I explained to them my plan, the Nelson touch, it was like an electric shock. Some shed tears, all approved." So get on board, colleagues. You've been notified now, okay? You're going to have to start showing your merit and good judgment, just like Nelson's officers did in the future to me, if things are going to work out. I can feel a little bit anonymous in this great metropolis that is New York City, sort of like a figure in an Edward Hopper painting. I try to be a part of the city by going out and visiting its shops and museums and jogging and playing hockey with its citizens. Now, many of you know hockey players and hockey gear are notorious for smelling quite foul. And after I play, I have to mix among the people, usually. And sometimes my buddy gives me a ride home, but oftentimes I have to jump on the subway. I am, as you know, dear listeners, the consummate gentleman, and I'm always thinking of others. So I do try to keep my distance. But every once in a while, I get a look. It's somebody that maybe is caught the odor. So, there's a silver lining to this. I don't feel so alone. I can see them see me and experience me, and I know that I'm a person. I exist. I don't feel seen exactly, but I do feel smelled. All right, that's it for the Patty Pod, Season 4, Episode 1. Hope everyone's doing well. Peace and love.